Can I start by saying what I love about it? What I love about it
Come on, give us the goods.
what I love about it is that it is a community enabling organization and a community enabling event, because what you do is you bring a person with a skill or a talent or an ambition into an ecosystem where they can hook up, beside knowledge, which is important, also with a bunch of other people with skills, with talents, with ambitions, and they can link up and start building those dreams. But we do know also that if you look, for example, at Silicon Valley, the place to be a few years ago, and you would have significantly less opportunities if it wasn't the place where you are. And now we are creating this ecosystem and this enabling system where it is irrelevant where you are. So
boy, the world changed
exactly,
in the last year.
Exactly. And you are ahead of the music by building that organization and ecosystem and enabling platform where the next Albert Einstein might be in a village where we have never heard of, right? And 20 years from now, we're going to look at Google Maps or whatever we have by that time to figure out where is it, right? And that's the beauty, because you put the opportunity of learning about technology in a global platform, and it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter where you are, but you get connected to the technology, to the knowledgeable people, and to a bunch of other talents. And that's what I love about it.
Well, I think one of the things that I think is really interesting, and we had a digital conference before everyone was doing digital conferences. And it was, naturally, we've all had lots of changes, in our lives and our resilience and, all of the many things that have kind of come at us by surprise, if you will. And we've kind of gotten used to that life, I suppose. But we were digital before digital was a thing. And we have 4 tracks at IBM Z Day. And there's really something there for everyone, whether you're a seasoned developer in kind of an IBM Z role, whether you're new to Z, maybe you have no idea what the heck I'm even talking about when I say Z. And we've got a student track that I personally, and I'm sure I speak for Lella on this one, but definitely we want to hear from Lella. It's one of my most favorite tracks. I've got 2 tracks that I'm passionate about, but the student track is 24 hours of programming. And you don't need to know anything about computer science to join, because we know in how many places in the world, how many people have never taken a computer science class. There's so many people out there that it feels like this mystical thing. Maybe it's not for you, or you think it's not for you. Maybe you walked in the room as a young girl and you felt like, wait a second, that's for boys. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a boy. Or, wow, are there any people of color in the room? These are many of the things that I hear about. We've got a session on diversity and inclusion with a specific lens on women and girls and people of color. We've got a neurodiversity panel where we talk about neurodiversity in the workplace. We've got a number of different sessions on really inspiring young people, students really of any age, because I believe we're all lifelong learners, to understand what is enterprise computing, why does it matter, what's an API, what are some of the common programming languages in enterprise computing, what is cloud computing, it's a little bit about networking and fraud control and all kinds of cool stuff. But I would be remiss if I didn't say one of my favorite sessions. I get an opportunity, which is kind of like for me a bit of a career thing, to interview Timbaland. And for those of you who might not be music buffs or music fans, he's a producer, multiple Grammys. And one of the things that Lella and I talk about often is, you don't know if you're going to get no for an answer if you don't ask the question. And I asked, and surprisingly enough, I was floored. He said yes. How cool is that? I don't know, Lella, what is your favorite, kind of highlight that you're looking forward to when it comes to IBM Z Day?
Yeah, too cool, honestly. And I think that being a humanities student myself, who just found about IBM Z through attending a webinar over 18 months, nearly 2 years ago now, and now having this kind of dream classroom environment at my fingertips, where I was welcome at 15, but I had real industry leaders as my teachers who've been in the industry for over 30 plus years or more, and also working with students my age, high school leavers to undergraduates, graduates, PhD students alike, all united by this kind of interest in remaining at the forefront of the digital transformation. And I think, yeah, being a humanities student, realizing that just because I don't study computer science and I don't want to see it as this data-driven, maths-heavy subject, but rather use it as my catalyst for social good and really achieving my dreams and aspirations, has really been quite enabling and inspiring to really see real-time tech for really what it is, and seeking careers advice from hearing from industry leaders and recruiters and big people themselves, I suppose. So definitely, I think that's inspiring. It is your dream classroom environment. You are meeting people who you'd never meet if you were just doing an in-person event. And particularly from my first IBM Z day and looking forward to now, it's having the chance to, despite us all being kind of physically isolated due to lockdown or being in different parts of the world, all coming together and hearing Melissa interview Timbaland and meeting and attending the new Hour of Z workshops and sessions on diversity and inclusion. There definitely is something for anyone and everyone. And the fact it's a 24-hour global meetup for students in particular, I think is so wonderful and accommodating to us as we all go back into these kind of new normal times, for sure.
Melissa, if I may, if you allow me to add to this, first of all, I'm a huge fan of your work and what you do personally and professionally. So I'm still not sure who is most happy about this. Is it Timbaland being happy about finally meeting Melissa, or is it Melissa being happy about interviewing Timbaland?
I know. I will tell you. I do have some T-shirts from Timbaland's new startup. We'll learn more about that at IBM Z Day. So if you're passionate about music creator culture or the music creator community, they are just doing some really innovative things when it comes to artistic expression, smart contracts, as well as the concept of how do we make sure that data protection, privacy, and security are really central to a company's strategy. And I think what's interesting is, not a day goes by that we don't hear about, a breach of some sort, right? And I think when we consider data protection, privacy, and security, a lot of companies that are dealing with personally identifiable information are those that are most concerned usually. But I think what we're starting to see is that, and this is, I think, been a long-term thought for our cybersecurity experts, but, it's not just for a big bank. It's not just for people who are handling, sensitive personal detail. It's much bigger than that. One of the other things that's pretty cool about IBM Z Day is we're kicking off this thing called Data Tech for Good Coalition. And what it is it's bringing together companies and thought leaders, but specifically startups that are passionate about data protection, privacy, and security. I hope you'll join us, JD, in the coalition. It's in collaboration with Village Capital. We're going to do a number of talks around, why this stuff matters. Why does it matter to startups? Because I think a lot of times, when people think about IBM, specifically IBM Z, they think about the enterprise, the biggest, Fortune 500s, 500 companies on the planet, and not necessarily thinking about the role that IBM Z plays for startups. But I also run a startup program at IBM called the IBM Hyperprotect Accelerator, which is all about enabling startups to build and scale. But it's all about data protection, privacy, and security. They get $120,000 in cloud credits, 2 years of technical mentorship, 1 year of business mentorship. And the whole idea is, how do we go to market together? we have, in 2019, we invited 15 startups to join the program. We expanded that to 45 total startups across year 1 and year 2 last year. This is our road to 100. So on IBM Z Day, we will be announcing the 55 startups that will be joining the program. Mm-hmm. I'm crazy pumped about it. No one knows who all those 55 startups are going to be. And frankly, I don't know yet either. I've got a few that we're still on the fence and we're arm wrestling and thumb wrestling, and I promise it's friendly, but it's a real nail biter, and it's going to be really exciting to tell those startups who's been invited to the program.
That is amazing, and it underlines what you and IBM Z, and sorry when I keep putting you and IBM Z on the same level, but that is because
oh no,
we have
I'm
this very
totally fine with that. I'm
intense
totally
personal contact about that, and I celebrate that. But what you do with IBM Z and with this event is that you create, as I said, this ecosystem in which everybody is welcome. And if we talk about a funnel, we say, what is the outcome? The outcome is that people start collaborating with each other, that we bring different talents together, that we bring different skills together. And somewhere in this funnel is a bunch of startups coming out of this and turning their dream into a company, an organization.
And disrupting, you know, the fintech industry, disrupting the music industry, disrupting healthcare and insurance, you know, so education. There's so many different sectors that's going to be represented in that, you know, in that part.
But they do that with what I'm always preaching about. You cannot retrofit privacy and security. You cannot.
Exactly.
So you build it from within. You build that in your program. You build that in your environment. If
and
they
you
want
have
to go
invest. It's not something that you're just going to write a policy, do some training, and walk away. You know, I think one of the corner, you know, or let's call it the central part of, you know, the accelerator for startups, as well as, you know, IBM as a whole, is, you know, how do you incorporate technology to manage your data protection, privacy, and security versus just relying on a written policy and training. And I'm not saying that you should walk away from, you know, policies and training, because you do need that. But, you know, imagine the role that technology could play to take away some of these other risk factors. And that's a lot of what we're going to talk about at IBM Z Day. Things that I think a lot of people are not aware of when it comes to the capabilities of IBM Z, or the capabilities of a specific product that's called IBM Cloud HyperProtect Services. So many things to talk about. Exactly. You know, we talk about students and startups and enterprise. There's also a session, or there's also a track on open source, an entire track on, you know, focused on open source developers.
That's amazing. So there's something for everybody. And if you look at the agenda, I still have issues picking which one, because I want them all.
Me too. I'll tell you, JD, if you look at the agenda, you're going to notice on many of the sessions, I'm in 2 places at once. So I've had a hard time looking at them and saying, okay, which one am I going to do? Because I can't be in 2 places at once. And if you look at the agenda, and Lella's probably saying, wait a second, let me go look at this. Yes, Melissa, in like 5 different times, you are in 2 places at once. That is physically not possible, even for you, Melissa.
But
you have magic, and I believe in that you can do a lot, but I think this is a little bit out of your league, but I'm also sure that you will solve it
absolutely
somehow.
Out of my league. I mean, I've been trying to see if Elon Musk will clone me, but he's not responding to my tweets. So there you go.
How rude, how incredibly rude. And he's missing this wonderful opportunity to maybe in the future be interviewed by Melissa. Timbaland took it immediately, right? That's the guy who understands an opportunity.
Yeah, I know. I'm so excited about the whole Timbaland thing. We'll see if Elon Musk will start knocking on my door soon. But you know, if I think about, you know, what I expect to be inspired by is, you know, in the student track, and all of the student things that we do, it's something that Lella taught me, and it was this concept of for students, with students, and by students. And, you know, to really think about the concept of not making a decision for youth, without youth at the table. And, you know, today I did an interview for a magazine, and it was just a written Q&A kind of thing. So I wasn't like on the hot seat with the journalist. It was, you know, typing in my answers. And, you know, one of the things that was included in this interview was, you know, who inspires you the most? And I'm going to tell you who that is in just a second. But what that inspired me to think about was, you know, at IBM Z Day, you know, what are the things that I expect to be inspired by? You know, I expect to be inspired by the prominent role of youth at the event and students, and really putting, you know, students at an equal level to experienced professionals. And I think in a lot of conferences you see experienced professionals, you know, running everything and doing the talks. And, you know, a lot of times we have a lot of talking heads, and we're really trying to go away from that whole talking head kind of thing, making sure we have youth at the table.
Mhm.
If I'm not mistaken, every single one of the student tracks all have youth leaders.
They do.
And really giving them opportunities. Lella's on many of them. And I don't know, that's what I'm most inspired by. Lella, what are you most inspired by when it comes to, or what do you expect to be inspired by, you know, when it comes to walking away on September 16th or September 15th at 5 p.m. or 4 p.m.? Yeah, what do you think that's going to look like?
Oh, there's just so much to kind of choose from. And I think that looking at and discussing all of the different sessions that are on offer, we do realize the wide array of how there genuinely is something for everyone. I definitely say that when I kind of first started studying computer science and learning how to code, I wasn't too sure where it could take me. And I think whilst I learned to code at 8 and I did exams early and really kind of started to get real technical qualifications at this real-time pace, with IBM kind of kickstarting that learning journey for me, starting to really realize and be true to myself and realize that perhaps the most technical role isn't quite up my alley. And though it is data driven and maths heavy, I'd love to see what else there is that I can do. And at school, I did sometimes find that the advice would be, well, how do you want to go and study politics and international relations, but then go and do something in tech? Or how do you want to do both, you know? But Melissa,
because you're an and not an or.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Exactly that. That's the thing. Being an and not an or, and having a chance to attend IBM Z Day and hear the latest updates and projects and case studies and meet like-minded students from across the globe is something I know will automatically blow my mind. And that's just the students themselves being unapologetically themselves and really feeling enabled by the fact that IBM are creating content that's entirely for and with and by students. I often say, and I got to speak at a really big internal conference in front of over 2,000 people, and I made sure it was really important to mention that just as you perhaps seek advice from a healthcare professional for medical advice, I think it's equally important that when making decisions about young people, you're making them with us. So seeking the advice of young people who are really the true experts of growing up in what has become a digital first world is so, so vital. And I hope that other students who perhaps not had a chance to engage with the student initiative and activities that we're putting on offer for students really leave and realize, yeah, maybe I'm not quite an expert in IBM Z yet, or maybe I'm not technical. I do it with the air quotes because I truly don't think you can ever have completely learned something. But I think that hopefully people will leave and think, yeah, I see what I could do within IBM Z, or I see that as an opportunity that can take me to the next place. When we've done our talk shows, we've had industry leaders talk to us about hackathons and these opportunities as real kind of penalty-free chances to learn and have fun. And when we remove the jargon of enterprise computing and IBM Z and mainframes and all these big job descriptions and executives who are going to be giving keynotes, it really is that chance for you to take anything and everything from the session, meet like-minded students, and just really learn. And I think the fact that it's all recorded as well will be a great help, so I can go back and catch things I've missed or watch sessions I perhaps was unable to attend live whilst I was at school. So honestly, a real great opportunity for students really trying to understand what they can do next, exploring their options and seeing how they can gain those real-time qualifications despite the fact they may have not gone down that kind of traditional academic route.
So real quick, one of the things that I shared in the beginning when I talked about what do I expect to be inspired by, or what am I currently inspired by, and wondering what Lella's inspired by. I'm going to circle back to where I started, talking about inspiration, and that was that magazine interview that I did today, and I guess it's a Q&A, and they asked me, who inspires you in tech? And Lella, I put you.
Oh, thank you.
I put you, and I put my 17-year-old mentor. When I first met Lella, who's kind of my partner in crime, if you will, good crime, by the way, not bad crime. Good crime. But no, I said Lella, and one of the reasons I said Lella is when she first approached me at this event, and we talked for the first time. Approached. She was like, talk to me. Actually,
you were lucky it was on a call.
Oh, and at first, even though I heard the concept of, every time you're mentoring someone, it should be a give. It should be, a give and take, if you will. Like, it has to be back and forth, and
Reverse.
You're going to learn as much as you share or give or whatever. And this is, I would say, even though I've gotten a lot out of my, mentor-mentee relationships in my life, I think, Lella in particular has really also been like a big mentor to me. And it's just been pretty cool of really that concept of reverse mentorship. I'd heard about it before, and I've learned things from many people of all ages and different economic, statuses and education levels and whatever. But man, this girl can just run circles around so many people, and she's really been part of putting the entire student track together and making it what I hope will be a set of magical sessions over 24 hours of programming.
It will be. It would be a shame to miss it, honestly.
Well, we're going to do the best we can to make sure that everybody joins up, right? Because
Yes.
This is the most important event you can get if you want to either kickstart your learning process. You can kickstart your development if you already have the skills or have started with that. But for me, the most important thing is that we are creating hybrid skills and hybrid talent. I come from the classical applied information technology and computer science. I promoted in that. I'm not going to say how long ago that is, because then I feel old. But the result
Especially
of that,
with Lella here, we all have to sit back.
definitely. But when I got out of that circuit, I knew a lot of things about a few things, and then I lacked the business understanding, and I started working on projects, and every time I started a new project, they had to explain me everything from scratch. And what I love about the IBM Z initiative and the entire education system around it is that you are creating hybrid talent, because you bring people in with a lot of knowledge in social science, for example, and they connect with technology and they connect with technical people, and both of them come out with more understanding. So
I think that's fair. I think that's really fair. I talk a lot about one of the things that makes me most vulnerable in my life, in my career. I came into the team to create the startup program back in January of 2019, and that was my gig. That was my thing, and I knew the startup ecosystem well, and I knew how to run an accelerator. I felt comfortable and confident, but I had to learn IBM Z, and I didn't know anything about mainframes. If I had like a picture of 3 things you know, would I be able to pick out the mainframe? Probably not. And I know that sounds like a little bit, you know, I don't know, like dumb, if you will. And that's how I felt in the beginning when I came in and I started talking to these super experienced, you know, Z developers and architects and engineers. And, you know, at first I thought, am I an imposter? You know, do I belong here? And I soon realized that, you know, we all have our, you know, strengths and our superpowers and our weaknesses. And I realized that there are certain things that my other colleagues don't have, and they look at me and they're like, wow, I'm an imposter, I don't have that, you know. But if you combine us both together, you know, it's kind of like that concept of stronger together. And that's what we like to focus on, you know, at least in my world within IBM Z, when you think about, you know, the entrepreneur program or the student program, that, you know, whether you're a seasoned developer, you know, and you know that you're going to study computer science, or you're already studying computer science, you know, you've got pathways. But if you're, let's call it student zero, you know, you've never been exposed to computer science, it's this mystical, scary thing that maybe is not for you. You know, you picture like a, I don't know, guy in a hoodie, you know, it's a black hoodie and he's hacking away in the basement with cold pizza, you know, kind of demystifying what is computer science and who's it for. I wish I had someone who did that for me when I was a young person, because I remember walking into, you know, any of the rooms that involved STEM, you know, when I went to university, and I didn't feel like I belonged. So I never learned to code. And imagine this, I work in a team that is really responsible for developer advocacy. I wanted to be a developer advocate, and I kept trying to start to learn to code. And I'll tell you, I can do a mean hour of code, soon to be hour of Z. But I think what I've really enjoyed at, you know, within the IBM Z team is being able to provide a pathway for that student zero. And that's another, I think, really cool, exciting thing about the event is whether you're student zero or student 10, whatever those two things mean, you know, there's a little bit of something for everybody.
And going back to JD, your point about kind of growing up and kind of taking that traditional route into computer science and STEM, the fact that now we have access to these learning journeys that are being created by employers themselves and industry leaders themselves just shows you that we often look at like the digital skills gap or the reason why we've not got enough women and girls in ICT, but the fact that we're slowly developing kind of these real-time learning opportunities where you can kickstart your career from being student zero to being like future general manager of IBM just through the plethora of opportunities that are available online. Informal
learning, free and virtual. Everything that's going to be presented at the conference is, at least in terms of, you know, the student track, is all free. It's all virtual.
So important.
Events, and it's not just about how do you come in and learn, you know, hardcore tech skills. It's also about that broader vision around what are the building blocks to become prepared for the future of work, something that I call the trifecta of skills. And that's you know, digital skills, which can go into that branch of IBM Z and other technologies and platforms and coding languages. It's also professional development skills, which I like to call habitudes. So habits and attitudes that kind of help you thrive in the workplace. And then entrepreneurship, so entrepreneurial thinking. And it's not to say that everyone's going to be an engineer or a data scientist or an entrepreneur, a CEO and founder, but whether you're going to be this or that, you need digital skills, you need habitudes, and you need to think like an entrepreneur, even if you're going to be an intrapreneur or someone innovating inside of someone else's company.
Because the careers of the future really haven't yet been defined. Like even the last 18 months have shown us how much time can change. So thinking to like 10 years into the future, who knows what we're going to be doing? Are robots going to take over things? Or, you know,
we're going to be floating around in the Milky Way still as superhumans.
Melissa will have her army of clones by then. You know, it's just so unpredictable, but we know that as we evolve, it will be digital skills that we all need. Back then it was having the ability to read and write that meant you could have a successful career, but now having digital literacy and not just seeing that as technical skills and being able to code, but rather the habitudes and everything around that is just so essential. And the pandemic shifting things to virtual has only gone and exacerbated and fast-tracked the need for digital skills and such opportunities. So really, really important.
The brilliant thing about it is that it doesn't mean that if you are student 0 that you need to become student 10. It means
exactly
by
right.
the time you're student 2, you can say, I have enough understanding and I'm going to use that in my field. You can also say, I'm student 10, but I don't have enough understanding of the other processes going around me. I have all the digital skills I need.
But those habitudes or that entrepreneurial
Yeah.
spirit, I think that's why I call it the trifecta of skills, where I see it as this wheel of competencies. And I do this talk, it's not incorporated into IBM Z Day, but by joining us, you'll learn where you can get extra programming and extra content through our IBM Z Global Student Hub, which is always on, always there, free, accessible to anyone, anywhere, as long as you have an internet connection and a device. But one of the talks I do is on the future of work. Are you ready? You know, not talking about when are we going to superhumans and a bunch of clones of Melissa floating around the Milky Way, but you know, it is this wheel of competencies, and I've got this wheel with 8 different competencies in it for digital skills, for professional development skills, and for entrepreneurial spirit. And how I see it is you're looking in each of those little prongs and you're dialing them up and down. Like the first stop, if you will, is you're a consumer. Middle stop is you're a maker, a creator, a doer. And then the last one is you're kind of a thought leader, or you're influencing or educating or teaching others, you know, or advocating to solve big, wicked world challenges.
I think that also is a wonderful summary to wrap up this session, Melissa, and this advertorial for all the wonderful things we're going to do with IBM Z. If I may add the first final word, I have only one thing to say: be there, because this is most likely the best starting point for whatever you want to achieve. Lella, what do you have as a final thought for us?
I think be there, the 2 words that they need to know. Honestly, to add anything, I'd just say, and I always say it, really just be brave and not perfect. Don't expect that you need to enter this conference and know everything and understand all the jargon, but rather enter with that kind of open mind, ready to learn, upskill, and see the future of work as it really is, beyond any careers advice or presumptions that you may have possibly had of the tech industry before. This is the future of work. This is where tech is going. And if you're not there, you really are missing out.
Yeah,
Lisa, our Sassinator, your final thoughts, please.
the fascinator.
Yes.
So I think since you both went with be there, I'll echo that. And that's not to, you know, jump on the train with everybody else because everybody else is jumping on the train, but you know, yeah, I mean, it's available to you. I would say be there, but before going, check out the agenda, look at all the different tracks, make a plan for yourself so that you know when you want to be where. We have a TV expert TV show that Lella and I run every other Wednesday, where we talk about, you know, different topics. I do it every week, and I alternate between our entrepreneur audience and our student audience. And one of the sessions that we've got coming up, I think on Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, Lella, keep me honest, as part of our Student X series for students, with students, and by students, we have a speaker coming in named Dux Raymond Thai, who's going to help us talk about how do you make the most out of a tech conference, whether it's your first conference or your 100th conference, if I can say that right. You know, you got to plan, you know, but be prepared to fly by the seat of your pants and change your mind a little bit, but you know, figure out and map out which sessions you want to go to, because there are 75 plus sessions, 100 plus speakers, 4 tracks, and 24 hours of programming on the student side. That's a lot to get through. So be there or be square.
I knew that was coming.
I know, I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it.
I will cut the video into squares so it matches, right?
Yeah.
I've learned one tip many years ago when I was visiting a lot of conferences, to always pick one session from the agenda which you don't like, because that's where you get the most surprises. So if you
I didn't
make
even
like
think
your,
about that. I'm learning something new.
right, and
Lifelong
it works
learning.
well. I'm not going to say it works good for everyone, but for me it works fantastic. And I do the one which I am not interested in, and I plan it somewhere in the middle, so I still have a lot of energy. And then after that, I'm even more excited because I learned stuff I wasn't expecting. And that's the cool thing. If you look at the title and think, nah, that's not me, go there anyway and be completely overwhelmed because you weren't expecting anything.
Super.
And it works great for me.
I love that. You can learn something from anyone, no matter who they are, no matter how old they are, young they are, what their job is, what their job is not, what their educational level or whatever. So be there and take it from us. You're not going to want to miss it.